it's a Friday, and this is Mike Lodge. I am the business advisor, and I'm here to talk with you. But today, I don't think I'm going to talk anything about business. I mean, maybe a slight in gesture, but I just don't feel like talking about business today. I have had it. I'm done with the politics. This is Friday, so I'm done with the politics. I'm tired of trying to figure out what the president is going to do next on the economy, what the feds are going to do next on the economy, what the American people are going to do next on the economy. So today, what I'm going to talk about is bucket lists. And let me tell you, I've decided that since I'm in a position where I can travel, I can take my microphone with me, I can take my work with me, and all my mediations are done with Zoom, so I can be anywhere in this country or even in the world in conducting mediation. So we're in a downtime, and things are going to start happening here. So what am I going to do? Well, my bucket list is to travel. So I've planned my first trip, and it's going to be for Thanksgiving. So I am leaving here, Greenville, South Carolina, and I am going on the 18th, and I'm going to travel up to Washington, D.C., and then from Washington, D.C. over to Chicago, and then Chicago through the land of America, through several different states, until finally I get to Los Angeles, California, where I'm going to spend time with friends, which are basically my family also, but my friends. That is my first trip. And I decided, you know what, I'm not going to do any of this craziness anymore of just sticking at home and just waiting for my bucket to be kicked out from underneath me. So I'm going to fill up with my bucket with a whole bunch of different things to do in travel, and I'm going to do it. But first I want to travel in the United States, and I want to see what everything's about. Now, I have traveled from the West Coast to the East Coast by car, from the East Coast to the West Coast. So I have been across the United States over 6 times now. I had my office over there in Los Angeles, and I was traveling back and forth from the East Coast to my office in Los Angeles. And so I drove, because I had to take some dogs with me. So I drove. And so I've been back and forth from the southern part to the mid part of the United States. So I've seen both sides of that. But this time, I said, you know what? One of the things I want to do is to get on a train and go someplace. In Europe, you travel everywhere on the train. And I love traveling on the train in Europe. You're zooming along and you are literally seeing the countryside as you go along. Well, the same thing here. So this is going to be a fun trip, and I'm looking forward to it. Now, I couldn't book a roomette, so I'm going to have to go coach, and I'm going to have to sit up and lay down. Luckily, the seats lay fairly nicely back so that you can get some rest and some sleep. So that's what I'm going to do. That's Thanksgiving. Now, spring, after April 15th, I have planned another trip. And this is going to be, again, by train and by ferry. So where I'm going is, again, Greenville. From Greenville up to Washington, D.C. From Washington, D.C. over to Chicago. From Chicago over to Seattle, which means I'm going to go up into the mountains, and I'm going to see some snow, and I'm going to see some other things up there. So it's going to be a beautiful trip, and I look forward to that. Then, when I get to Seattle, I take a ferry. Now, this ferry is 5 days. It doesn't stop in Canada at all. So you go straight up to Alaska, but it takes 5 days to get there. And you stop in Ketchikan, you stop in Juneau, and then you finally, when I finally get to where I need to go, I'm going to take the train to the very northern part of Alaska where the train ends. And then that will be the end of my trip, and then back to Greenville, South Carolina. But I decided, you know what? I am so tired of this feeling that something bad is going to happen, because I already know something bad is going to happen in this economy. I know that. But why do I have to sit here and I'm still going to talk to you about business on my trip. I'll talk to you about business all the time. But expect that in the last few months of this year, it's going to be about taxation. I happen to be taking a 24-hour tax class at the moment because I got to keep, I have to do 24 hours of CPE every single year in order to keep my tax license up, my tax practitioner license up. So I have to take it every single year. And what I am noticing, and I don't know if this is something that we have to be concerned about, but when I took the ethics part of it, in the past, ethics has just been ethics. What we should do, what we should do, everything else. This time, the whole lesson, and I've been taking it from the same company for so long now. This time, the lesson on ethics was how to prepare yourself to have to go before an administrative judge. Now, I'm thinking, well, are they telling us that with these 86,000 new enforcement officers in the IRS, are they getting us prepared for that? Because I have never had to really study about how to do a deposition, how to file, how many days it takes for the administrative law judge to hear the case, what your arguments are, what documents that you have to present to the other side. I mean, it was the whole gamut of what you need to do to prepare yourself to appear before an administrative law judge. Which sounds to me like, are they trying to get us prepared for the IRS to come after tax practitioners, and we have to make sure that we can handle these types of complaints? Now, I do very few tax returns. I do mostly advisory work. So I'm not too worried about it. But what I'm concerned is that it seems like they're preparing us to deal with the Internal Revenue Service. So, but I kind of digressed, right? I've come to the point that we all need a bucket list. We all need to find a trip or someplace to go that's cheap, that's not that expensive, and that you can just get away. For my first trip in Los Angeles, I have 4 books that I'm taking with me. And I'm going to read at least 2 of those books on the way there. Maybe 3, I don't know, depending on how fast I read and what the scenery is and what I'm looking at. But this is going to be my time to get away and just read the books. I have 4 books that's on my, right next to my couch here in my office that I have not been able to get to read because I've been busy with mediation. And I'm going to take this time for myself. I'm getting older now, and I feel as though that I cannot be stagnant any longer. During the pandemic, I was really stagnant. During this downward in the economy, business has slowed down. So I don't want to feel that stagnant. If I'm going to slow down business-wise, I'm going to get up and move. I'm going to get up and do my bucket list. I'm going to fill my bucket list with more lists that I can accomplish. And my first 2 are these train rides that I need to prepare for. We have, you and I, during the pandemic, what did we do basically? We sat there, we were waiting to be relieved so we could go out and begin working again. We were there with our children. We were trying to get them entertained. But we were stagnant, basically. We were there just sitting. We were just there waiting. And that was probably one of the worst things that we could do, is just sit there and wait. Now, I applaud these individuals who had motorhomes that got into their motorhome and went someplace. They didn't need to be around people, but they went someplace. They saw something new. They follow the guidelines. We can't remain stagnant any longer. If we feel that we are being controlled by a government, we're being controlled by the media, we're being controlled by all these other things, we've got to stop that thought process. We are independent people. We are independent individuals that know what we want to get done. We know what we want in life. And we have to... What are all these people calling in on my cell phone all of a sudden? Right when I'm in the middle of a talk, they decide to start texting me. But we are independent individuals, and we have got to remain independent. We let the government take control of our lives during that pandemic, and we should never have done that. It did us too much mental health harm. Look at our friends who got depressed, and some of them never talk to you anymore because they was in their own little cocoons. Well, the same thing right now with this economic downturn. What are we going to do? And that's the question. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And the answer is get up and create a bucket list. Get up and do something. Maybe you've wanted to learn how to paint. Get up, put it in your bucket list to get done. Maybe you wanted to climb a mountain. Get your gear and start climbing that mountain. Maybe you've wanted to start a business. Start the business. Maybe you've wanted to get some mental health help. Get it. Put it in your bucket list. Maybe you have wanted to spend more time with your grandchildren. Put it in your bucket list and do it. Even if it's just by FaceTime, spend more time. We've got to get our bucket list and get going on this before someone kicks the bucket out from underneath us. Or we kick the bucket. One of those two. I don't want to think about that, but it could happen. We can't let life pass us by because of a bad government, because of a bad pandemic. We have got to create our bucket list. I encourage every single one of you on this weekend, take some time. Call a friend up. Hey, you're on my bucket list to sit down and talk to. I haven't seen you forever. Come on over. Let's have a cup of coffee. Let's have some dessert. Let's have that cheesecake with the blueberries on top. That's what I want. That's what I'm going to put in my bucket list. We've got to get up. We've got to take control. We are independent people. We can no longer let other people control our mental health issues. Because they're making them worse. They're making our lives worse. We have people who are in power say, no, life is good. And here we are struggling just to buy that apple in the store. Let's create our bucket list. This is Mike. Listen, if you want to have more access to me, you can go to www.lodge.co.com. Again, that's lodge.co.com. It's the weekend, guys. Let's take advantage of it. Create your bucket list. This is Mike Lodge. Talk with you soon. Bye-bye.